Hey there, my name is Bradley and I'm a French tutor. I'm going to react today to a video of Bradley Cooper speaking French. I thought it'd be a cool idea to do a series of American celebrities who end up speaking foreign languages and go over how well they do, what they can improve on, and you watching can use this as the means to improve your French, to improve the way you speak and understand people and the different choices you use based on the situation you're in. So this is just, unfortunately there's no video, it's just audio, so I'm going to put a screen grab of the actual photo that's played on this YouTube video up for you to see, but we're going to be listening to the audio today and go through Bradley Cooper speaking French in an interview about A Star is Born. Alright, let's go.
Le truc, c'est intéressant pour moi et elle. Quand j'ai rencontré, j'ai dit à elle, on va se...
Okay, first of all, right away, he says, quand je rencontrais. So we've got two things going on. He's trying to use passé composé, quand j'ai rencontré, and he says quand je rencontrais, which I think probably is just an issue in the pronunciation of je and j'ai, which are very similar sounds, so we'll chalk it up to that. But additionally, he's ignoring the object, the article la, so, not article, pardon, the object la, so he should be saying, when I met her, quand je l'ai rencontrée. And then he also says, je dis à elle. So again, I think we have an issue with the je and j'ai sounds, je dis versus j'ai dit. And rather than à elle, we should use that as the indirect object and turn that into lui. Je lui ai dit. Let's continue.
faire confiance parce que moi, je dois venir être un chanteur pour le film et elle doit venir une actrice.
Okay, now here he says, for himself and her, he uses the same format, the same setup, but he says, elle doit venir en actrice. First of all, actrice, speaking about Lady Gaga here, being somebody who identifies as a woman, we would use une actrice, un acteur, une actrice. And additionally, elle doit venir. Here, rather than venir, of course we should be using the verb devenir. So, elle doit devenir une actrice. However, we need to get rid of the une because it's kind of the elle est actrice versus c'est une actrice. So we would say elle doit devenir actrice. And again, this is past tense, so elle a dû devenir actrice. On continue.
On est vulnérable, on dit ça en français.
Vulnérable,
oui.
c'est juste. Vous aviez la même fragilité et la même puissance.
Oui, c'est ça. On peut marcher dans le chemin ensemble, pas toute seule.
Donc maintenant, vous allez commencer une carrière de chanteur, Bradley Cooper.
Non, jamais. C'était Jackson, c'était pas moi.
Ah, c'était votre personnage. Oui. Vous arrivez à faire la part des choses, c'est-à-dire que comment vous travaillez? Vous partez pendant des semaines pour aller faire le montage ou vous arrivez à garder le lien avec votre famille?
Les deux ensemble. Heureusement, on fait le tournage à Los Angeles où j'habitais à ce moment-là.
Et vous...
Okay, great. He speaks really well. He's got a great flow to his voice. He does a really nice job of keeping up with the French rhythm, which, unlike English, French has a very kind of staccato, consistent rhythm. So he does a really great job with his pacing, and he sounds really great when he speaks. There's just these kind of more nitpicky things that we're going through. So one thing he says is with heureusement, when it's leading into another phrase, like I think he said heureusement j'ai pu tourner le film. He could have said heureusement que j'ai pu tourner le film. That's a little bit more stylistic, you don't need that. And then he also says parce que j'habitais, let's go back and see what he said there.
Où j'habitais à ce moment-là.
Et vous rentrez chez vous?
So he says où j'habitais à ce moment-là. So j'habitais right now is in the imparfait, which is great because living somewhere, it's a little bit of a longer stretch of time, and so it works in the imparfait. But then when he says à ce moment-là, we get a much smaller, more definitive slice of time, which implies that he was living there, at least as I'm interpreting this, for the sake of editing this film, producing the film. So I think we have just a little bit of a disagreement between the imparfait for j'habitais and the phrase à ce moment-là. So I would suggest où j'ai habité à ce moment-là. Otherwise, you could say où j'habitais à l'époque, because l'époque, the époque is a little bit of a longer, it's a little bit of a less short of a duration and more precise period of time, and so that description works a little bit better.
Vous le soir, retrouvez
Oui,
votre
exactement.
femme et
Aussi, je
enfant.
fais de editing chez moi.
Le montage chez vous.
Oui, le montage.
C'est drôle ça quand même.
Ouais, mais c'est.
Vous êtes en pyjama, en short.
Ouais.
Est-ce que si on vous propose demain de tourner dans un film français, est-ce que c'est quelque chose
Oui,
auquel vous pensez ou...
Alors, j'adore habiter ici à Paris. J'adore France. J'espère que je vais avoir le.
Okay. So, great use of alors. One quick little nitpicky thing is when he says j'adore France. France should always be la France. Any country should always be introduced by the article. So, les États-Unis, la France, l'Allemagne. So he should have said j'adore la France.
L'opportunité pour faire ça.
En plus, vous travaillez dur, vous avez...
Okay, here's a good one. So now he's saying, let's go back just a few seconds.
Auquel vous pensez ou...
Alors, j'adore habiter ici à Paris. J'adore France. J'espère que je vais avoir l'opportunité pour faire ça.
So, j'espère que je vais avoir l'opportunité de faire ça. Few things to break down here. This is a very common problem for people who speak English who are learning French, in that, let's first start off with just the choice of the word opportunité. So that's a word that's been borrowed essentially from English and is used in French a decent amount, but it's not, I wouldn't say, the most appropriate term. What we really should say that's a little bit more French would be the word occasion. So, j'espère que je vais avoir l'occasion de faire ça. Just sounds a little bit nicer, it's a little bit less. As native speakers, they choose to do that a decent amount, but as people learning French and speaking French as non-native speakers, I think it's important to try and be as careful as we can in our word choice, and that's something that, because it's borrowed from English, in my eyes, if you're already struggling with just being more confident and speaking more fluidly, that tends to be something that's a giveaway in a sense, and not that we're trying to hide who we are, but it's always good to try and emulate as well as we can a native speaker, and a great way of doing that is to avoid some of these borrowed terms that especially come from our own language, because they mimic, in a sense, the way that we construct English. And so, one, it sounds like we're translating from English directly into French, rather than thinking just within French. Another thing he says here, which is a similar way, is kind of English to French rather than just within the French context, is j'espère que je vais avoir l'occasion. So, we've got two je. J'espère que je vais avoir. In English, we would say, I hope that I'll have the opportunity to do this. In French, because it's the same subject, je, we don't need to say the second one, and so we'll adapt the phrase a little bit. Instead of saying j'espère que je vais avoir, we can say j'espère avoir l'occasion de faire ça. So we can just get rid of j'espère que je vais avoir, j'espère avoir. Even though the other one was in the futur simple, futur proche, we don't need to carry that meaning over. It's better to have the more concise phrase.
En plus, vous travaillez dur, vous avez appris à chanter, vous avez appris à jouer de la guitare pour le film, vous allez encore travailler votre français pour parler comme un Marseillais, par exemple, ou un Lillois, vous qui aimez travailler.
C'est vrai que j'ai fait mes études au sud.
Dans le sud.
Oui, dans l'Aix-en-Provence, oui.
Ça vous a aidé dans votre métier d'acteur à avoir une perception?
So he said dans l'Aix-en-Provence rather than à Aix-en-Provence.
De la culture européenne différente?
Je pense que c'est obligatoire pour quelqu'un qui est dans ma métier. J'ai la sensibilité européenne, bien sûr, grâce à ma...
Okay. J'ai la sensibilité européenne. Great phrase. The only thing is just the agreement. Sensibilité is feminine, so we'd have to say sensibilité européenne.
Ma famille, qui est la deuxième génération américaine, qui vient d'Italie.
En Italie.
Et Irlande.
Votre grand-mère était italienne.
Ouais,
c'est ça.
Ouais, et mon grand-père aussi.
Le film a...
Qui vit en Italie. So that works perfectly well. You also have you can also say qui habite Italie. So both of them work. Habiter is a little bit more of like to inhabit a place, whereas vie has more of a connotation of actually living your life in a place. So both work. I don't know if I can say that there's a preference towards one or the other. It's just a little bit more of the imagery that that connotes for somebody about if it's living somewhere and living your daily life and having those experiences, or more of having your actual residence in a place, which is a little bit more removed from the act of living there, even though they're not mutually exclusive.
A reçu un accueil très chaleureux à la Mostra. On parle des Oscars. Ça fait partie de vos préoccupations, ça, ou vous laissez faire la vie d'un film?
Non, je pense pas de ça parce que c'est trop tôt, mais en même
Je pense pas de ça. Bradley Cooper. Here we would say je ne pense pas à ça. The no is not important. When we're speaking, we get rid of the no all the time. So je pense pas à ça, first of all. But if we have à ça, then it makes so much more sense to use that and turn it into the preposition y. So j'y pense pas. I don't think about that anymore. Much better.
temps, si
Ça, ou vous laissez faire la vie d'un film?
Non, je pense pas de ça parce que c'est trop tôt. Mais en même temps, si le fait que les gens parlent de ce sujet, ça c'est incroyable pour l'Académie. Regarder notre film, c'est dingue.
I like this as ça, c'est incroyable. That's a great way of phrasing it. That's a very French way of saying something. It's a phenomenon called reprendre. When you have ça, c'est important. Ça represents this whole idea, and then he kind of takes that and says, this whole thing, that's what's important. And that's a very common way of phrasing things in French, where you might say like, Sophie, je l'aime bien. It's a way to emphasize what the focus of the sentence is, because in French we can't, unlike English, we can't use intonation or volume to emphasize something like that. In English I could say, I like Sophie a lot. And you know that I'm talking about Sophie rather than I like Sophie a lot. So is the focus on my liking her and the quality of my relationship to her, or is it about that like or that affection with Sophie versus somebody else? So French, because you can't do that because you have this constant rhythm to the language and equal stress. Each syllable gets equal stress essentially. You have to add these other words like ça or elle, Sophie, je l'adore, and it gives the listener focus.
C'est trop tôt, mais en même temps, si le fait que les gens parlent de ce sujet, ça c'est incroyable pour l'Académie. Regarder notre film, c'est dingue.
Le film parle du passage de l'ombre à la lumière.
Ouais.
Votre personnage va connaître un succès extraordinaire, Lady Gaga, grâce à vous, grâce à Jack, qui va l'entraîner dans son sillon. Vous êtes dans la lumière. Qu'est-ce qu'il faut pour ne pas se perdre dans la lumière, même quand on est un acteur de Hollywood comme vous, Bradley?
Je vais dire la même chose que Jackson a dit à Ella. Trouver sa voix et travailler avec sa voix et jamais perdre.
Okay, a little thing here. It says, trouver sa voix et travailler avec sa voix. So, because he said trouver, which is perfect, you're starting the sentence with the imperative. Imperative? Why is my grammar leaving me? No, not the imperative. The infinitive. I'm sorry. He starts it with the infinitive, trouver. So the next one would follow that same format. Trouver sa voix, travailler sa voix. And he also did that other thing again where instead of je dis à elle, je lui dis. So, I think there's 2 seconds left, but let's see.
Sa voix.
There we go. Great. So overall, he speaks very well. I would say the largest takeaways from the way Bradley Cooper speaks French and what you could work on as you're watching this is a little bit of those, a lot of the grammatical issues he has are not necessarily, you know, I could say he changed the wrong preposition de versus out here and there. But after that, French is a big proponent of condensing. French kind of wants to get from A to B in the shortest, most concise way possible. Even though it is a still beautiful romantic language with a lot of flourish and can be very descriptive, that's still within the context of being a little bit more condensed. And so when he says these things like je dis à elle, yeah, that technically works, but saying je lui dis is much more concise and a little bit more focused. Similarly, j'espère que je vais avoir cette opportunité. Working on making certain that just because the vocabulary you're using is from English and also has a French equivalent, you want to be careful that it's the proper use in French. So anything that's borrowed from English, for example, in the sense with opportunité. A lot of borrowed terms exist in French and in every language, but they often fall into a little bit more of a casual use. And so in this sense, being that he's in an interview and he's promoting his movie, which is now a few years back. But anyways, it's a bit more of a formal situation, so if he had the opportunity to revise a little bit of what he said, I would have advised that he use occasion, because it's a little bit more proper and it avoids that borrowed term, which again is a little bit more casual. So again, he speaks very well. Overall, it's just a matter of making certain that you're aware of the words you're using, how will they fit into a particular situation and in a scenario, so that you don't speak to your friends the same way as you do to a professor, for example, or even parents. And so you want to craft a message that fits each group that you might interact with. He does a great job. I thought this would be a fun video to do. I really, when I was learning French after I'd studied abroad and had a lot of issues of just kind of jumping in the deep end, I realized that I wanted more resources about how people speak, how they can speak more clearly, more fluidly. And so I thought this series about reacting to American celebrities speaking French would be a lot of fun. There's a ton of videos online, and I hope to do more in the future. Thanks so much. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.